Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast. This is Travis McClure, my co-host, Preston Guyton. Preston, how you doing this morning?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good, man. It's been cold here in Myrtle Beach area for the past, I'll say, it feels like week or so, like everywhere else in the country.
Yeah, my running has suffered because it's a little bit cold.
You know, I ran Christmas Eve morning. It's definitely the coldest weather I've ever run in. It was 16 degrees when I started my run.
Yeah, it's not fun.
But I'll say this, like running in the cold, I've learned it's like that first half mile to a mile that you actually feel cold. Like if you layer, you don't want to wear too much because you don't want to get too hot, but you got to have just enough layers on that you can start running and not feel like you're like dying from the cold.
Yeah.
And the only thing that suffered, I had to actually double back, like go back to my car. I happen to have an extra pair of gloves in my car, so I had to wear 2 pairs of gloves. Other than that, I was fine once I got moving.
Yeah, I mean it's not that bad. For me, as long as the wind's not blowing.
Yeah.
Like if it's just cold and not windy, it's fine. But I think what day was it? Saturday, Friday last week, the wind was blowing. It was miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a weird. And then so I did that run Christmas Eve, and then my run before that, we had like torrential downpours. I thought I would beat the rain, and about halfway through my run, and I usually go like one way out and one way back, right? So I have no choice but to run all the way back. And like right when I turned around, I think I was maybe 4 miles from my car or something. It was like a short, like a medium run day. And so I ran back 4 miles in like torrential downpours.
So meanwhile, the people in the Northeast or, wherever north are laughing at us because they're running in the snow.
Yeah, there's some savages up there that like I follow some people on, social media and stuff that run like in Chicago and stuff like that. And that's like, 16 degrees. That's like March.
Yeah. Running and their mustache is frozen.
Yeah. Other than that, I guess this is our last podcast of the year. We're kind of wrapping up the year here.
This is number 36, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I think we started about halfway through the year. So I'd like to talk about like recapping the year a little bit, Preston. I feel like it's been interesting for me. Obviously, I joined up with you and joined your companies, I should say, right? During the year this year, right? Committed the end of last year, and I officially started with you guys the end of March, right? And a lot has happened. A lot has evolved in obviously Palms Realty, and then of course Easy Home Search, and then branched off. Now there's Cheplack Digital. Talk about that progression quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean so when you joined, I think we had 22 agents.
Well, when I first sat down with you guys in December,
12.
You had like 12 agents.
Yeah, we had 12, and then when you joined after your training at 40, we had, I think, right at 22, 24. We're at with Palms Realty, we're at I think 85, 86 agents now.
Mm-hmm.
We should be right at 90 by the end of the year. So we went from I think 18 to 20 at the end of last year to we'll have close to 90 agents this year at the end of this year, which is in 3 days. So yeah, that's it's crazy. Like you look at it, like the growth with Palms, and if you look at the growth with Easy Home Search, you look at like the organic growth of Easy Home Search and how that's grown. It's kind of really the same scale. Like I looked at some numbers with Easy Home Search on I think day before yesterday, and from January of this year to today, looking at it over last year, we've grown like 600%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we'll continue to grow. Obviously, we're working on the new website, which will launch in May.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same with the recruiting has grown, the same with the all those things, and it just proves like when you have when you're doing the recruiting and doing all the things we're doing, then you have some kind of system, a lead system to grow as well. That just kind of follows the same trajectory, because that's a big question people ask, a lot of times, especially now, because a year from now, they didn't necessarily need the leads, they didn't need the prospect, but now, it's if you're not prospecting, you're not going to make it in this business.
Yeah, it's right now I think it's what makes or breaks agents right now is their ability to have conversations.
Yep.
And I think it's 100%. One thing you said too, I wanted to touch on, you talked about systems and processes. Like I always reflect back on like my year as well, right? As an operator. And I'll say like I've learned this year just being involved with you as an entrepreneur and being involved in these companies that when you create systems, it truly does create foundation. If you think about recruiting, for example, like we created a recruiting system, right? We hired somebody who was in charge of it. We put different systems and processes in process, and what happened? Like all of a sudden, like there was all this growth. And you could say the same things about numerous things in Easy Home Search and Shop Like Digital, same way.
Yeah, I mean, with the same thing with the Agent Excellence program. I I was looking at different ways to, train agents and bring on new agents for
Mhm.
opportunities. And we built that system. Well, you have to build the system, but you also have somebody running it, right?
Right.
You have to have somebody solely in charge of it, because if you have too many people trying to do it and they're doing other things and doing that as well, it just most likely will fail.
So somebody's got to be in charge of feeding the dog. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Two people feed the dog. Nobody feeds the dog.
Yep. So the Agent Excellence program does really well because,
Yes,
we hired Trip, and Trip manages that and he owns it.
he does an outstanding
Yeah.
job.
And then we, same thing with recruiting. I was, in March, we had that conversation and I was like, we really need to bring on a recruiter because we're doing this and, everybody's trying to do it. And it just makes more sense to have somebody own that.
Yeah,
And, we follow along what John Cheplack shares all the time. And, what we're doing with the newsletters and everything else with the recruiting, yeah, I mean, we've consistently, since we brought on the recruiter, Brian, in May, we brought at the end of May. Since then, I think the lowest month was like 6 agents
yeah.
that we brought on,
Mhm.
and that was, I think, the second month. So since then, we've been over 8 agents every month.
And you talk about systems, like what he heads up essentially is just a consistent system to be in conversation with agents.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Whereas if you don't have somebody in charge of that, then it's like willy nilly, like, hey, you know what? Let me sit down for an hour and reach out to 10 people, 10 agents or whatever. And it doesn't happen systematically every single day. Now it's like you have a consistent system. It's just like a realtor that, prospects 4 days a week. We have a consistent prospecting system in our business.
yeah. I mean, anything, even part of what I shared with Easy Home Search. The big reason, there's 3 main focuses. When you look at SEO. Is content, interlinking, backlinking, and blog post and
Mm.
adding pages, creating new pages for the site, static pages. And it's not rocket science, but if you can continue to consistently do that month after month after month after month, then you'll see the results.
Sure.
And that's what we've seen. I mean, we'll eclipse, next year, because we're going to continue on the same trajectory with Easy Home Search. We're actually going to start doing more content and, bringing on more people to help us with it. And next year we'll eclipse over 1 million visits a month at some point.
Mhm.
We're 200, between 2 and 300,000 a month now. With all the MLSs we're adding, all the areas, we'll eclipse over 1 million visitors a month next year.
Wow.
And,
That's outstanding.
and it just goes back to the same thing: process, system, and consistency. That's it. I mean, same thing with recruiting, process, system, consistency. Same thing with the agent excellence class: process, system, consistency.
One thing I think about you too, Preston, I think you do as an entrepreneur, I think you do a great job with this. And I've learned from you in the last year is you set like these goals and you've talked about them for 2023, even like, hey, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve this. And in an innovative way, you try different paths to get there. And if it doesn't work, you're not like committed to like that. If it's not working, then it's like, okay, we're gonna change our trajectory and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And I think out of that, I've seen, especially on the Easy Home Search side, there's been a lot of evolution, right? Like a lot of the things we're doing now, we weren't talking about a year ago,
Oh yeah, I
right?
mean,
I mean,
easy home search has always evolved.
yeah,
It's when I first started Easy Home Search in 2020, it was more to generate mortgage leads.
right.
And then as it evolved and as I continued, because I always enjoyed like the website side since I've been in the business since 2004. And then it kind of evolved and I started generating leads for agents and then started generating leads for palms. And now in May, we're going to be generating leads for companies across the Southeast, eventually to, generate leads for companies across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely has, but you always got to evolve, especially in today's world, how fast technology moves and how things change so quickly. You have to. I mean, it just, the mission's always the same, right? It's
Right.
always been a way to generate leads for realtors, and that'll never change. But how we do it will change, and you have to, that's part of SEO and part of, growing an online company, that you have to evolve. I mean, there's nothing that moves faster than technology.
Yeah. And I think real estate is such a tech driven business that real estate evolves very quickly,
Oh yeah, for sure.
you know?
Yeah, but it's been a fun year for sure. I'm excited for 2023, and with Chep Like Digital, I spoke to John 4 months ago on that, and we had a conversation. I was like, I really love to teach teams and help teams, and um, more so now we're just, I mean, more really the teams are just, they look at it and we just run, and they're like, hey, we don't want to cancel. We'd rather you just continue to run it, because if we pull somebody to one position to train them to do this, doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's cost more money on salary to do that. So majority of them are continuing on. We actually haven't had one cancel yet after 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
because after 3 months it goes month to month. But I had that conversation with John. I was like, I'd love to train and teach people, and even that's evolved, right? Chep Like Digital, we're announcing, I think today, John, is that we're bringing on, ISA coaching in February, which
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be running, and it's going to be something that's different than a lot of programs where we're actually training the ISAs within our systems and then handing them off to the company. So it's super excited about that. The first 5 will start in February 1st.
Yeah. And I'm excited about that too, because, having the opportunity to join these companies and be an operations manager with you, like I look at that ISA coaching piece as foundation. You build that system of this is how we communicate with people who reach out and say they want help with real estate. You build that system of consistent communication from somebody, right? You have people, a team that are going to own that process. You're going to get the results, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have that foundational piece, you're just getting leads from somewhere, you're kind of just, in my opinion, just kind of setting money on fire.
Yeah, I mean, that's really where the idea of that same thing started, right? Like I was talking to John, I was like, I've turned away probably 6 or 8 small teams, over the last month from Chep Like Digital, because they weren't ready. And I told them,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what I don't want to do is generate like, if you told me we want, depending on the city, but majority of them we can, if you wanted 2,000 leads a month, we could do it, right? As long
Right.
as there's the traffic there. If you want 3,000 leads a month, we could do it. But that creates other problems. I mean, if you're not set up to convert, you don't have that conversion system in place, you're right, you're just wasting money. So that's where we came up with the whole ISA piece. I was like, hey, John, I sent
Yeah.
him the information on it, kind of what we wanted to do. And it just makes sense, because we could help them build out that ISA team and, build those systems, and then they could start bringing on leads, because they have that system in place to where, especially pay per click, because pay per click is such a nurture. You have to do so much nurture involved with the conversion. Like, it's not, you're not going to have leads handed off that are at the bottom of the funnel. It's just, I mean, you will have some, but a vast majority of them will be mid funnel, upper funnel. So there's going to be times of nurture involved, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most people fail. Because the agents don't want to necessarily nurture a lead that's 12 months out. So if you have the systems in place and you have the ISA team in place that can do that, and then it makes your conversion number so much better. And it's a big reason why we've closed, I think, right at 200 pay-per-click leads over the last 14 months.
Yeah, and you think about it too. So the agent, if you're just getting leads and like, hey, I'm just going to sign them to this agent, sign that. I don't need an ISA, right? I'm going to sign them here, sign them there, sign them there. The agent doesn't have a vested interest in it unless it closes,
Yeah,
right?
no, there's very, very few. There's some companies that do it effectively,
Sure,
but it's not scalable.
right. Well,
It's not. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that across 200 agents.
but if you have somebody or a team of people that you're paying to say, okay, we want to make sure these get handed off and get nurtured and handed off at the right time, speed to lead, all that good stuff. now it's a different ball game, right? You have people with a vested interest in making sure this gets to an agent, and not that agents aren't motivated to take a lead and get it closed, but I've learned in my experience working with agents is sometimes if it's not ready right now, there's some agents that don't pay attention to it right now,
Yeah.
right? Their specialty or what they focus on is what's right in front of them. Maybe that's the getting this to the closing table or that lead that is ready right now. And some of these ones that are good leads, they're just not ready right now. They're not nurtured correctly. That's why you need an inside sales agent team, that foundation to make sure that, hey, that's happening because that agent didn't pay any money for that lead a lot of the times,
Yeah.
right? They didn't pay any money for that lead. So if it gets wasted, it's not, they didn't lose any money. Talk about goals for this year. When you set goals, I know you had like sent me, and I guess we don't like to use the word goals. We talk about, hey, what am I committed to achieving this year? When you send that, I know you sent me your focus for the year. Do you break that down at all until like I always think about like, you know, what do I need to achieve in 30 days? What do I need to achieve in say the next 90 days, 6 months, and a year? Do you think about your commitments that way in terms of
Yeah, I do. I mean, what I did what I'm doing this year, and I did it 2022 as well. When I say this year, 2023 is I'm putting more things in my calendar. Like
yeah.
I always have a lot in my calendar, but like I don't have running in my calendar.
Hmm.
So I'm actually going in and putting those things in my calendar. I'm putting like content and just different things in my calendar as like time blocks. I always have my kids' stuff in the calendar, so I don't have somebody book an appointment or whatever
Sure.
during that time. But I'm actually going in and putting those things that people don't think about in their, in my calendar, like
Mhm.
running. Like if it's in my calendar, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
So that's some of the things I'm doing more so, and it's based on the list I sent you. So that,
Yeah.
based on those commitments I had, I think I don't know, running 800 miles. So I'm like, okay, I got to break. What I don't want to do is get halfway through the year and okay, my commitment was to run 800 miles, and I'm at like 200 for the
Right.
year.
Now it's not
In
achievable.
June. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, and part of that, running 2 or 3 half marathons, maybe a full marathon. So yeah, I'm gonna have more of those things in my calendar to make sure I'm doing them because if they're in my calendar, I'm gonna do them.
Yeah. And one thing I like about that, and I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you do this, but I definitely do this with stuff, is reverse engineer. Like, so I'll put, now running's an easy one, but you can apply it to business too. It's like, okay, I'm going to run a marathon. And then so I put the date of the marathon in my calendar and then I work backwards and figure
Yeah.
out, okay, what do I need to run? Right. All the way to today. You can do that with business goals too, right?
Yep.
Like, okay, I want to close, I don't know if you're an agent, I want to close 50 deals this year. Now work backwards, right? Like, okay, well, I know November, December typically are slower months for me, but so where do I need to be at the end of October,
Yep.
right? And then kind of work your goals or your commitments, and you can do that with anything. So I'm a fan of like, okay, reverse engineer. I know this is my commitment, my goal. This is when I want to achieve it by. Then we work backwards and figure out what I need to do month by month, quarter by quarter to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, same thing with like lead gen, right? Like I tell people, work backwards. You need to build those systems, those conversion systems, put them in place, and then bring on leads.
Hmm.
Like I see so many people want to bring on leads before they have these systems in place,
Right.
and you know, you end up wasting more money. I mean, it's more expensive to bring on leads and then build the systems than it is to build the systems, put the employees in place,
Hmm.
and then bring on the leads. So that's the same thing. I mean, a lot of that, I say that often as well. I like to, look at things and then go backwards from to figure out exactly, look at that goal and then what do you have to do to achieve it?
Yeah. So if I'm sitting here as a team leader, broker owner, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm listening to these guys. I definitely need to increase my lead generation next year,
Yeah.
2023. I don't feel like I have a lot of systems and processes in place. I have, revenue or money I want to invest. What's step one?
Really, it depends on, do you want to work with, do you want to hire a company to help you with it, or do
Mm.
you want to do it yourself? I mean, there's a ton of information out there if you want, you have the time, to do it yourself and you have the capacity to learn it. But even with that, I would still get educated on it. Like, one of the big things like with Cheplack Digital we talk about is honesty and transparency.
Mhm.
We always want to be honest and transparent with reporting and so many different things that are when people, I see a lot of teams get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So I would really, the first thing I would do, even if you're not doing it yourself, just educate yourself.
Yeah.
Understand it enough to where you know what to look for, the questions to ask, and all those things. So that way, when you do hire somebody, you could ask the questions and a lot of times you'll get the answers and realize, hey, do I want to work with this company or not?
I know you do discovery calls with people, right?
Yeah, we do. And that's like some of the discovery calls that, I've talked to people and they wanted to join and they just weren't ready. And I told
Right.
them, hey, let's, focus on that conversion side, building that out, and then was talking 2 or 3 months. Because a lot of times I'm, talking them through and letting them know it really doesn't make sense, which, um, turning money away, but still I'd
Yeah.
rather, what I don't want to do is bring people on, they're not ready. And then 3 months later, they're complaining and, they just didn't have a good experience. So that's, a lot of what we do is just making sure the team is the right fit for what we're selling.
Yeah. What would you say is a realistic expectation for someone? It's like, okay, let's say I'm a team of 25. I have 25 total
Mhm.
and I want to add some lead generation. I don't have anything right now. Or what I had, maybe I invested in something like, say, a Zillow, and they're no longer available in my market, something like that. What's a realistic expectation for someone who's, I don't have an ISA team, but I want to get all this in place from a time frame standpoint? If they were to start January 2nd, I think is Monday, January 2nd, when would I start seeing results from the investment I was making?
I mean, say they didn't have anything.
Mhm.
Say they didn't have an ISA team.
Yeah.
They didn't have a website, or they had a website and it was terrible. So
They're starting ground level, like
great, yeah,
they're
great, yeah,
rebuilding
yeah,
everything.
everything. So to launch a website, there's a couple websites I recommend for two reasons. One, they convert really well on pay per click,
Yeah.
and two, they have the structure of the architecture structure built out where you could eventually generate a lot of organic traffic.
Mhm.
So that would be step one, getting those in place. You're probably, if you sign up with one of those today, it could be launched in 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Um, basic information and all that launch in 4 weeks. Now, obviously, it's always if you're wanting to build organic traffic, it's month after month, week after week. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
Um, and then the ISA training. I mean, if they hired us, we could have ISA ready to them working in month two.
Yep.
Um, so it just depends on the weight, but I would say 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months if you're starting from, ground zero. I would say within 3 months you could have systems in place and processes in place. And because you also need to look at CRM, how's the CRM set up, um, all those things. So it's yeah, I would say 3 months would be a good number.
It's funny. You and I were talking about just before we started recording. I was telling you about this rule I saw out there that I loved. It's called the 2190 rule.
Yep.
Right. It takes you 21 days to build a routine. You can call it system, you can call it foundation, whatever. 21 days to actually build a routine. It's going to take you 90 days to see a result. And you can apply it to anything. Like a lot of people get into fitness this time of year,
Yep.
right?
And get out
Yeah, yeah.
in February.
I think the stat is like January 17th. Most
Yeah.
people,
So
like,
I think it's 3 weeks. You're right.
it's something like that. Like they don't even hit the 3 week mark,
Yeah.
right? But you got to give yourself 3 weeks to establish that routine. I love talking from a fitness standpoint because I feel like it affects a lot of people. And then 90 days to actually see like a return,
Yeah.
right? A result. And I think like that, if you're a single agent, you listen to this, lead generation is the same way. It's going to
Yeah.
take you 3 weeks of getting those leads and getting into a routine of or a system of this is what I do when I get the lead, right? Because it's not going to be perfect from day one.
Yep.
And then it's going to take you 90 days before you really start seeing the results from that system you put in place.
Yep.
But if you don't put a system in place, you're not going to get the result at day 90, right?
Yeah, and that's that's something to think about too. Like when you're building a database, and a lot of the people that I coach with and help with lead gen now, as I tell them, like you need to, especially in this market, you need to hit that database from many different angles. Meaning, like how you reach out to them, email newsletters, text messaging, calls. Now we partner with Fellow. We're using Fellow for home
Mhm.
valuations to generate more leads within our database that way. So, you need to take an approach, whether it's through, retargeting social, retargeting on Google, doing all those things to take advantage of that database that you have to then generate more leads and more closings off of that. So it's not just, you know, you need to continue to put pressure on that, especially as the database grows. You got 80,000 people, and there's a stat out there. Most of these closings you'll have won't necessarily come from the database, but they'll come from referrals from the database, or that person may not ever buy from you in the database, but they might refer a family member to you, or somebody that's moving to the area. Say they're from a different area. Oh yeah, I know a realtor. They send me stuff often.
Or they share the listing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways that database can continue to provide you with more and more closings every year.
Sure. So, Preston, tell me this. What are some of the trends or things to look out for in 2023?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about, and Sunit's doing with Nick McLean and John, they're doing a Zoom on AI and real estate.
Hmm.
And, AI is becoming more, there's Open AI as a company. They have something called Chat GDP, I think, or GDT, whatever it is, where it's a lot of things like whether it's AI generated chat, AI generated content. I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that. On the flip side, you're going to see a lot of abuse as well, because I see a lot of people talking about AI and SEO,
Hmm.
and
You're saying like overuse of that stuff.
overuse, or not, or just blatantly using it and copying and pasting the content to your website.
Gotcha.
Because they just came out with a new update in December, which was to target basically companies using that too much, where there's ways you could use AI that is helpful, but then there's ways you could use it that you abuse it.
Yeah.
And I think you're already starting to see a lot of it with the AI chats and everything else. But I think that's going to continue to become more and more involved in real estate. And I just know how agents are, or a lot of people are. They're just going to abuse it. And what Google is doing is like they're setting some things in place to capture it. But a lot of this stuff they're going to have to do manually. And they're talking about if they find a website that's using it too much, they're going to manually penalize the website,
Hmm.
which sucks because I've been in this business a long time on the website side. And, a manual penalty means you could go from a website that has a couple 100,000 organic visitors a month to less than 10,000.
Oh, wow.
So, those are things to think about when you with AI and using it in that capacity. I mean, at the end of the day, true content, educational content that you write really makes a there's ways to utilize AI to help, but to abuse it is not a recipe for.
So the biggest thing to avoid those Google penalties would be what? Just to make sure the content you're putting on your website is created by you.
Well, you could still use AI to help you with it,
Hmm.
but there's also AI, like if you've ever looked at, so like OpenAI has one, a lot of that is where you could actually code it into your site and create content. But if there's ways to use it to help you write, but then there's ways that, like if I said I want to write on Myrtle Beach real estate
Okay.
and put these keywords in, and it would create a blog within a minute.
Oh,
Uh,
like just like a fabricated, like
Like,
computer generated blog with the keywords needed to create
yeah,
organic traffic. I got
so
you.
800 words. The majority of people are just going to take that,
Right.
copy and paste it to the
Because it's
website.
easy.
It's easy. If Google, as they adapt and change their algorithm, they're going to figure out ways to find that. Like if a site went from nothing, all of a sudden they're producing all this content, they're going to get flagged, and then they'll have a manual team that goes in there and looks at the site. And if they see that it's AI generated content consistently,
Mhm.
then they're going to penalize the sites. And it's
Mm.
something it's being talked about a lot, because some of the professionals are saying, hey, well, it's funny that Google's doing this, but they use AI every day themselves.
Yeah.
So they're going to penalize people for AI content, but then they use AI for everything they do.
It,
So
it kind of makes, I think, from Google, from a business standpoint, I don't know. To me, I guess it makes sense if you look at their business model, because they want you to pay to play, right? They want you to pay for that traffic. The organic traffic you generate essentially is free,
yeah,
right?
I mean and that's a big thing that's always been talked about as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Google, they never really tell you how to show up organically.
Hmm.
That they mention things here and there, but they never. And the same thing with their algorithm updates. They don't say, okay, this is what we did, and it does this and this and this. Like they did two in December, and I shared that in the Chep Like Digital group. Was one was, I think, December 4th or 5th, and the other one was December 15th, 16th. We don't have enough information on that one to really know exactly what it was, but one was on helpful content. So was going after these websites that have a ton of content. It's just spammy content and everything else. And then the other one was going after linking from basically taking links from certain sites and giving no value, which links if from good sites will give you SEO value. And they were just basically cutting those off to where they give you no value.
Hmm.
So those were the two updates they had. And it just shows you that Google is putting a very, very big emphasis on content
Yeah.
because they had a similar algorithm update in August. So you could tell they're spending a lot more time to figure out if content's helpful or if it's written by an author, a true somebody actually writing it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I mean, how can they tell if the content is AI generated or not?
You would think some of it would get repetitive if it's AI generated, right? Like if let's say two people in the same market, their content should be pretty similar, no?
Yeah, I mean it will because it'll continue to scrape data. It scrapes from articles. How it's generated is based on information out there, right?
Yeah.
But then you could create content with AI and then put it in a like Copyscape or something to see if there's any plagiarism.
Oh,
And then you can edit it based on that. And that's what I'm saying. There's ways you could actually use it to where it's helpful. Like if
sure.
you wrote, if you went through and did a blog and you did every paragraph using AI and then put it into a different, say Grammarly or something and edited it based on that. There's ways you could, but a majority of people aren't going to do that. A
No.
majority of people are going to put it in there and whatever they use, Jasper or whatever it is, create a blog, copy that blog, paste that blog on their site, and that's it. I mean, they're going to take the lazy route always. So I mean, that's what you're going to see. So and not just there's a lot of things 2023, but I see that as being that's something talked about a while. Like OpenAI has been out there since 3 years ago, but
Yeah.
now it's starting to get a lot more people talking about it. So it's getting a lot more mainstream. But like structurally, which is a chat bot, all the AI chat bots were based on OpenAI. That because it gives you the code and everything. You can add that to your site
Mhm.
and add a lot of those systems. But it's that I see that being talked about a lot more in 2000. Already is now, but it'll be that much bigger in 2023.
And these are the things like you have clients that you coach around SEO and you have clients that you coach around creating that organic traffic. These kind of things you coach and consult around, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is. I mean, we give people ideas like, with page creation. We have somebody in the Chapel Digital group now that helps with page creation if somebody needs that. We're eventually going to add some writers into Chapel Digital, which they could pull from to, help them write articles and things like that for their
Y-
blog.
When you say page, Chris, you're talking about like for like that hyper local stuff being added to their website.
Yeah, like the search. So like the search pages. So creating the saved searches for neighborhoods and then adding
Gotcha.
that to their site, things like that.
Yep.
We're adding some writers in there as well. But yeah, that's a lot of things that we're helping with. And if a lot of people start using AI and writing content and getting penalized, it just makes my job easier. So easy home search will rank a lot faster. But it's that's something just to think about. I mean, understand the easiest, quickest way is not always the best. Well, usually is never the best way. But if you do use AI, there are ways to use. Like we're going to use that on Easy Home Search, the new site, but we're not using it to write blogs. We're using it to write content on some of the pages, but it's like snippets of content. So it's not going to be. It's not going to be. We're not going to use it to write blogs. It's just going to be in certain because with everything that it can do, it doesn't make sense not to use it.
Right.
But there's ways to use it where you're not abusing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, obviously in 2023, we got to mention there's a big event coming up here in Myrtle Beach that you've been a big part of putting together. Talk about that a little bit in February.
Yeah, the Connection Summit. Super excited about that. February 23rd. We're having a VIP party. It was going to be a Dunes Club. We had to change that because Dunes Club is actually having a wine tasting that night. And I tried to get it moved and they wouldn't do it. So most likely it's going to be a Drift, which is a fun place. We're going to have some music there, and it's more casual too. So it's
Mhm.
I think a lot of it'll be a fun. It'll probably be from 5 to 8 or whatever it will be. But yeah, we're bringing in speakers from all across the country, from team leaders to brokers to owners to, real estate coaches. I think one of the most popular real estate coach right now, John Cheplack. He's going to be. I think he's on 2 stages at Inman. I think he's speaking at 4 or 5 events in January, and he's coming here in February, which is exciting. And then Bill Pipes will be here. Justin Nelson, Bill, Sanit Argawal, Matt Smith, who else am I? Kelly Salter, Angie Cole,
and more. But so that's a 1-day event, and I like the fact that it's all condensed. It's going to be February 23rd, morning till late afternoon.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So we have 8 speakers. We have a conversion panel as well.
Yep.
Travis Alfredson's going to be on there with me. Travis is going to be on it as well. The 2 Travises.
Yeah.
So Travis and I will be emceeing, making a fool of ourselves.
Yeah.
But it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll start at 8 a.m. We'll end about 5. Be a full day of just really good content. What a lot of the teams are doing that are working. So it's a good event for an agent, good event for a broker, good event for a team leader. There's going to be a lot of things shared there. It's going to be. I'm excited about it. It's the first one we've had, and Grand Dunes Marriott Oceanfront. So, Myrtle Beach in February 23rd. It could be golf weather and shorts, or it could be,
it's
pants, jacket, and snow hat.
It really is hit or miss. So to sign up and get tickets for either the VIP or the regular event, where do people go to find that?
Yeah, it's the connectionsummitmb.com. You can buy tickets there. There is a room block for the 22nd and the 23rd at the Grand Dunes Marriott. I think rooms are usually $250. They're, I think, $199 for the room block. Those are limited, I think, to 30 rooms, 40 rooms, something like that.
Those are oceanfront rooms too, right?
Oceanfront, yeah. Oceanfront, ocean view, parking lot view.
Yeah.
I don't know how they have them separated, but the resort is oceanfront. I run by there when I run. So if anybody wants to run with me, I'll be running by there at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, whatever it is. But we're super excited. We're it's 2 months away, so we're going to start doing a lot more advertising for it. I think we have probably 70-ish tickets, 75, 80 tickets sold now. We expect to have between, I don't even know. I mean, it could be 200, it could be 400. I mean, it's, the way those events go is the last 30 days, you probably sell as many as you do up to that point.
Right.
So, we're expecting a big crowd. There'll be some advertisers there and everything else. So it'll be exciting event to have. So
good stuff. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have I usually say great rest of your week. I'm going to say have a great rest of your year. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in our first episode of 2023.
Yeah. 52 next year.
Yeah, we're going to do 51 a week.
That was on my list, right? I sent you 52.
We're committed to 1 a week the entire year.
And then we have a visitor again.
Yes, we have our special send-off co-host, Noah Guyton.
Noah, so can you tell us what was your favorite Christmas gift?
Probably the VR headset.
VR headset? What is on your shirt?
Gorilla Tag.
Oh. You didn't, how about the 3D printer?
This second.
So what do you say?
I feel like we should add a gaming channel.
A gaming channel? Yeah, I don't know if that fits into what we talk about on the podcast. But maybe we could do that next year.
Okay.
So what do you say?
Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a great life. And don't forget to like, subscribe.
And do what to the button?
Eat the button.
Eat how it's smashed. Is that all you have to say?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You heard it, man. Click like,
subscribe,
smash,
whatever it is.
Eat the subscribe button.
Eat the subscribe button.
All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.